See, we've covered metal conduit and rain tight fittings in other classes, but I think it's worth going over some vocabulary review. There's these are different types of raceways. So what is LFNC versus LFMC or FMC stand for? Now, all of these letters do have a meaning, and it's best to think about them in terms of, well, is it plastic conduit or is it metal conduit? Is it flexible conduit or is it a tube? Is it a EMT, stands for electrical metal tubing, and you can bend it with a conduit bender. Rigid conduit you can't bend with a conduit bender. And so, what might these stand for? That the M stands for metal. The N stands for non-metal. So that's pretty easy. Metal conduit, non-metal conduit. The F stands for flex. It's flexible. It's bendable. And I have to warn you about flexible conduit. There's still minimum radius bends when you get into flexible conduit. So you still need to have enough space around the equipment to make your turn. Commonly, conduit is going to land at the bottom of the electronic box. If that electronic box is given a NEMA 3R rating, that is for rain, not water splashing underneath of it. You don't want these connectors going into the sides or the tops of the units if rainwater can splash on that connection. The best practice is to land on the underside of the unit if mounting outdoors. So we have a flexible conduit. We have a L versus a F. So this F stands for flexible metal conduit. This LF stands for liquid tight flexible metal conduit. And then we have liquid tight flexible non-metal conduit. And so what type of conduit is this over on the right? It has metal inside and it's flexible, so it's definitely flexible metal conduit. But this extra PVC coating, the standard metal, that is breakable, bendable. That's a gap right there. That is not a rain tight product. And flexible metal conduit is not rated for wet environments. It's only rated for damp environments, which means if you're running metal conduit outside, you really can only land it, a few inches out the bottom of an eave before you have to transition into something rated for a wet environment. So there is a flexible PVC covered conduit. This you might also use inside a battery room so that you don't have to paint the metal afterwards. If your battery is an unsealed battery and it releases corrosive gas, the plastic has not just a weatherproofing benefit, but also a corrosion benefit. And the actual connectors and couplings you're buying are going to go with the exact kind of conduit you're purchasing. So there's liquid tight flex connectors for plastic that doesn't have the metal inside. Separate connectors for liquid tight flexible metal conduit. And then we have extra balance of system material. This is a transition coupling for transitioning rigid conduit to liquid tight flexible metal conduit. And so, if you are running a line all the way down in a rigid conduit, but for the very last bend you want to go into flex, you don't have to get in a box first to make that transition. You can just use the right coupling or connector to make that transition. So planning your conduit run well in advance and thinking about, okay, if I'm going through the attic in metal clad cable, and then I want to come out the attic and transition into EMT conduit, rather than for the last, I don't know, 15 feet or so of the run, rather than buying a box, mounting some conduit, maybe transitioning your cable inside the box or not, you might find a right coupling or connector to make that transition. At which point you can save a little bit of money. So what do we see in this for this particular coupling? It says for liquid tight, rain tight connections. So there's a difference between liquid tight and rain tight. Now, rain tight is a little bit more strict, a little bit more harsh than pure liquid tight. Uh, it says suitable for wet locations. Concrete tight. Malleable iron body with steel. So there are couplings that are rated to be encased in concrete.